golden cockerel, okay? So when we do our lesson for today, try to see how you are using the rotation of your hips and waist to make your movements happen. What is it that your hips and waist are doing? If they're doing nothing, then we need to really dig down deeper. They should be doing something, but make sure that that something is really working for you, working for your movement. So the question you ask yourself is, what are my hips and waist doing to make my movements happen? What is it? Say it to me. Ready, go. What are my hips and waist doing to make my, okay, you get it, right? Do that. What are my hips and my waist doing to make my movements happen? Okay, I'm serious, okay? All right, golden cockerel. Shift weight to the left. You could always still be thinking about that. This is a movement. Okay, pushing down, pulling up. Kicking out, gather, shift weight, center, follow. What are my hips and waist doing to help me with my movements? Last one. Holding your ball, root down, T stance, L, bow the legs, round the crotch, part the wild horse's mane. What are your hips and waist doing? L stance, bow stance. Are they doing anything? Right now, what are they doing? Okay. What we're going to address today is we're going to look at all our movements and we're going to ask ourselves, what is powering cloud hands in the 10? What are our hands doing? Do they need to do anything? Maybe that will help you answer what your hips and waists are doing. What are your hips and waists doing? What are your hips and waists doing when you ward off and when you grasp bird's tail? But in conjunction to what your hips and waists are doing, what are your hands doing? The principle says that the hips and waists are the commander of our movements. They steer us. They direct our movements. So we are seriously going to dig down deeper to see whether the principle applies to your Tai Chi. Okay, so first movement we're going to look at is all the movements, but everything that applies to hips and waists and hands. So the premise that we're going to be basing our lesson on is the hips and waists are the drivers of our body. The hands merely are set up and go for the ride. What do I mean by go for the ride? They are set up and they just go for the ride because our hips and waists are directing them. So there's hardly any motion of the hand when we do Tai Chi. There's hardly any motion of the hand when we do Tai Chi because the hips and waists are directing our movements. And the core also. The core and the hips and waists are directing our movements. So we're going to try to get 24 in, okay? So the first one is commencing form when we're applying it to where our hands are going. So when we slightly rotate, actually I'm gonna show you something here. It's not really the hands that are rotating, but it's the core, because if you come up and you shift your weight, the hands are naturally rotating. Then it's natural to lift, but you're not lifting like this, you're not lifting like this, but you are lifting through the core and through the mind. It's not just slower, but you're feeling something in the core, in the back, in this area also, besides the spine, in this area that we warmed up, okay? So is this anything new to you, or have you been doing that? And some people are very frank, they're kind of, not really, they can't really say for sure. But we assume that you know that to draw up water not only requires strength, but it requires not just hands. The hands will never pull up water. It's something in the back, and it's the mind saying, this is the way we have to draw up water, and this is the way we have to push it down. We can't just push it down like that, it'll never work. Okay, so show me your best use of the hands going for the ride, because the mind is saying that my core is strong enough to direct my arms, okay, or my upper body, okay? Dropping the shoulders, tucking that butt, commencing form, shift weight to the right, heel comes up, on the toe, open, toe, arch, heel, rotate slightly, think through, deep breath, use your core, drop that water, shoulder level, flex your knees, drop your shoulders, help yourself to push that water down. T-stand, come down. T-stands, don't raise those shoulders. Drop the shoulders. Weight down on that right. All right. To make it true that the hands go for the ride, we're going to step out and part the wild horse's mane. But each time we do that, we're going to let our hands go for the ride and use our hips and waists to make the fullness come through where we're actually at the end of parting of the wild horse's mane, up his mane. Store that energy, L stance. Move the energy through your core, through your hips and waists. When your hips and waists are fully turned, your hands are out, your left hand is out, forward. The hips and waists are really into play. Make it a little better. Sit back, sit down, pivot out, ball for better balance, L stance. Move that ball, power of the core, power of the hips and waists. So when your hips and waist are square, then you can then finish and polish off that final parting of the wild horse's mane. Sit back, sit down, pivot out, zigzag, ball for better balance, L stance, turn the hips and waist, move that energy, go up the horse's mane when you're fully extended. So now at this point, the hips and waist are in the direction of your forward foot. The right hip cannot be facing on a zigzag, but it has to be fully straight away. Half step, hold your ball, spin the ball to the left, sit back on the right, rock the left to the toe, draw it up through your core, the right hand as you watch. Lift up the front foot to its toe, place it down, white crane spreads its wings. Okay, so this time we're going forward now, okay? So each time we get to a movement, you have to ask yourself, how did my hand get there? Was I really using my mind, thinking it through, and was I using my hips and waist? Were my hands actually going for the ride? So I never want to see something like this. There's something wrong. My hands got there, my hips are this way on a zigzag when they should be finally in the forward position. Watch again. So we're trying to get away from a hand motion, but we're saying we understand the principle where the hands go for the ride because all I have to do is turn my hips and waist and make my natural flow of my hands be there. My hips and waist are to the forward foot. My final finish is up his mane. Even for this one, when half step, spin the ball, the core is telling me that the hand goes up. It's never like this because that was just a mere hand. But the final parting of the wild horse's mane, half step, when you sit back, the power emanates from the core through the mind as you watch. Sitting back, heavily weighted, so this front foot can do anything, set it up correctly. And then drop back down. So the sensations that you feel in Tai Chi should be even more reinforced with the heaviness of gravitation, the gravitational force. But how do you get there? You have to make sure that the weight is there, but you have to set it up square to the forward foot and have your hands ready for the forward foot. I keep on wanting to say not hands, but the upper body. Once we talk about the hands, everybody says, the hands can wave, the hands can push up and down, but everything is related to the core. Am I saying words or do you understand? Yeah? But that final destination remains in how you feel. How do you feel? The power of feeling that core being used and the power of just whatever you have in your body, including your mind, to get your upper body to where it needs to go. Everybody can hold the ball. Everybody can fling it out this way. Or you don't want to use the word fling it out, but everybody can eventually get there by using their hands. But we're trying to move away from that because that's not Tai Chi. Okay? So coming forward, starting with our commencing towards the clock wall. Good Tai Chi posture, dropping the shoulders. Begin, shift weight to the right, heel comes up on the toe, open, toe, arch heel, 50-50, rotate slightly. Deep breath in as we elevate, using the power of our mind, powers of our core, shoulder level, push down that water by dropping the shoulder and flexing the knee. Forming your ball without raising your shoulder on a T, bring it in. We're on a zigzag, we're going to take an L or straightaway, move that ball, split the energy, think it through, use your hips and waist to fully turn. Sit back, sit down, twist out on a zigzag, center with the ball, heel out, move the ball, turn your hips and waist fully, part 2. Sit back, sit down, pivot out, zigzag, Hold ball for better balance. L, turn the hips and waist, move that energy, fully turn, finish off your parting. Half step forward, spin the ball to the left so that you sit back on your back foot, watch that advancing right foot go off, rock to the toe, set it up correctly. Okay, so many words that I couldn't get it all in. This one now, white crane. You tuck the elbow. How do you tuck the elbow? You're like this, tuck it in. It's pretty semi-flared out. You want to tuck it in, drop the to your back foot as you bisect. Okay, so here we are. Tuck the elbow, come to the middle, bisect through the middle, weight heavily on the back, swirl back, use your hips and waist, set it up. You're on the toe, which has hardly any weight on the front. Therefore, you can do three things together. Ear, hand, heel. Turn the hips and waist. Power of the hips and waist brought you to the center. Sit back, sit down, pivot out, shift your weight, set it up, straight away, all together. Ear, hand, heel. Turn the hips and waist, hands go for the ride. Sit back, sit down, pivot out, set it up correctly, all together. Heel, hand, turn hips and waist, brush knee. Half step, sit back, rock the front foot because you're getting the weight onto the back, place it on its heel, play your lute. Center the front hand, glance at the back hand that's higher. You're going to swivel on your axle, you're going to turn your hips and waist. Here we go. All together. Ear, toe, heel. Pivot on the ball of your foot as you meet in the center. Draw back, push forward. Don't forget to push forward. Lead with your toe. Look at the back, weight on the back. All together. Ear, lift, toe, heel. Zigzag that out to meet in the center. Draw back. Center, lead with the toe. So you should be on the toe of the front. No weight. All together. Ear, toe, heel. Ball of the foot is to pivot. Meet in the center. Draw back. Last one. Center, glance, lead with the toe, up, ear, toe, heel, center, pivot, draw. Okay, so keep your draw. So the draw now, when you come back, because the weight is on the back foot, the hand that slides to your side should touch your waist and your hip. Okay, can you show me? Can you show me the last one where you draw back? Right here, so that the elbow is not further back yet, okay? Just right here. So I wanted right here rather than here, right here. Yeah, right there. Yeah, right there, Eileen. Yeah, a little lower, Nathan, down. This hand down. Yeah.
That's the waist or lower.
I said waist, but actually it's probably more like your hip, All right. So that one is, we kind of let it go and we kind of let it slip and we kind of let it say, well, it looks okay, sort of, but we know that to draw back, that back hand has to skim your hip. Once you, okay, skim your hip, okay? Everybody has that sensation. Now, so if you didn't know and you skimmed higher, skim higher, put that thing up higher. Now drop it down lower, bring it up higher. What's happening to this guy? Yeah, it's being raised. So play your lute. I'm going to get it the second time, okay? Watch the second one. If I only skim here, hey, this guy, there's something wrong. Eventually, I want to come back and sit back, but this is too raised. The weight has to be totally in the back. In the back, if it's in the back, this guy's got to drop. This guy's got to drop. It cannot be this way because there's weight still here because of this guy. Plus, it's not allowing your energy to flow. There's something locked in here. Plus, that egg is squashed. So you got to come down and drop it down. Obey gravity. Okay.
I guess the Chinese refer to it, it's locking your chi. But I think from a self-defense standpoint, you're up here. The only place you can go is down. Versus if you're someplace around here, you go up, you go down as you need. So you don't want to get stuck up here. You want to be down here. So if you have to come back up, you can come back up. You're stuck up here. It's harder to go up here versus you just turn your body and you're up. So you try not to get locked up.
So anything in between, to me, is not correct. So that hand or that arm that goes back has to be in line with the weight that goes back. The weight that goes back. It cannot say, here's my weight and here's my weight is on the back. There's too much weight in the forward foot. So when you slide back, you sit, what do? You sit back, you sit back, you sit down, you sit back, you sit down, you sit back, you sit down. This is that motion, this is that motion, this is that motion. This is not the motion. Sit back, sit down, rise up. So what I'm trying to demonstrate is probably an extreme, but to see an extreme is easier than to see something in between. Yeah, and drop your shoulders, drop your shoulders. You've heard that, drop your shoulders. Even when we hold the ball, I see some of my experienced students come down, hold their ball, and they're like this. Then they're warm. But this is locking that energy up again too, okay? So make sure you have that feeling, that sensation, that weight is on the back, and you're fully grounded on the upper body, upper part of your body matches your lower part in that everything is drawn back, okay? Anything new? Yeah, so that can help you. So we got to repulsing of the monkey, and we're just about to do grasping of the bird's tail, okay? So this is our last one. This is our last one. Okay, are you like me? So we're gonna modify that foot now, okay? Out here, weight on the back, lift up, all together. Make that foot go to a 45 as much as you can, and then that's your last repulsing of the monkey. So that right foot now doesn't have to do that much fudging, but it can do some to then hold the ball on a T stance for grasping of the bird's tail. At this point, grasping of the bird's tail, the shoulders are definitely down. Your body is not hovered over your ball. Your danten points are lined up. Weight always on the back. T stance. Step out, ward off. Push that guy away. Turn the hips and waist. Hands went for the ride. Reposition the hands. Leave the hands there. Sit down, sit back. Turn at the hips and waist to look back. Turn at the hips and waist. Contact, turn again. Push the energy through. Separate the hands. Sit back, sit down. Spiral up, lunge forward. I get to see you. Sit back, sit down. Pivot, root down. Ball and T, out on an L straightaway, ward off your opponent, push him out. Turn hips and waist, how? Reposition your hands, grasp the bird's tail. Turn at the hips and waist to look back. Turn again. Contact and push from the center of your body that energy through. Separate the energy and roll back. Show me how you sit down. Spiral up, lunge forward. Okay, so we'll work on that one now, okay? So what I really wanted to build up with, from last week's lesson, I think we got to serpent in the grass, and then I thought of maiden works or shuttle, because that one needs a lot of work. But when I look at all the other movements up through that point, I still see things that we can fix up. And being a mixed class with some with very little experience, I felt that everybody could capitalize on how hands go for the ride and how our hips are moving, since this is a young 24 based on principles. So in grasping of the bird's tail, we are still basing our motions on martial arts. So left hand, bottom, left foot ready to go. We take out T stance, L stance, ward off, bottom hand advances. If this is a martial arts movement, we're square, hips and waists are square to that outward foot, and we just need that distance to say, this is the space that I need. I'm in the strongest gravitational position right now, so if you can come by me and nudge me, I probably could be able to keep my position. I ward off. I turn my hips and waists. I don't just put my hand out there, okay? Ward it off. I turn my hips and waists. Then I turn it a little bit more, reposition my hands. Now, how do my hands get to the back? Watch. I sit down. I sit back. I look back. I turn my hips and waists, and my energy flows through the center. I push through. I roll back. I sit down. Storing that energy, I lunge forward. So I know that these hands, the only time I reposition my hands were right there. They never really moved. They never really move, but they move because they're attached to my upper body, and my mind says it's okay to move it. Good question. In the ward off on that one, I would say it pretty much stays right here. Then I need to get out there. I'm going to turn. I'm not going to turn this way and get contorted, right? So Tai Chi being a natural way to move, the best way to move, I would ward off, give me that space. I'm square, my hips and waists are square to this outward hand, outward foot. Turn my hips and waists, reposition. All right. So that one has to grow on you, okay? But you can still open your mind. Tai Chi is a dance and meditation and motion. When you are in dance, you have that leeway to do a little bit more than when you're doing the 10 form and you're stationary. Or when I'm teaching, it's clear. But when you're in motion, yes, you have that wiggle room. But as long as you understand, your hips and waists have to be squared, and you can slightly turn or rotate on your axle, whatever it is that makes you a little bit more comfortable. If it's to an extreme and you still feel comfortable, we will see it and ask you or tend to it.
Grasping the bird's tail is a series of movements. And it's a classic example of how the Tai Chi masters have divided the manner in which energy is delivered or handled into 8. But 4 are the most important, and they're all incorporated into grasping the bird's tail. The first is a thing called palm. So you're coming from your ball, you're coming forward, straight here. And this is, stay away from me. not push you away, but here I am, this is my border. And they tell you, you get the impression in your mind to stretch your extremities. You're not out like this. You're trying to, while you're trying to do this, you're supposed to be sort of think about elongating your extremities and not, okay? So stretch. And then there's a second movement, and I think where we're getting lost is we're sort of, if you watch people, they sometimes do it like this. But what it should be is here, and then the last minute. And you don't have to come all the way out here. What you're trying to do is get to the next movement. The next movement is this. You're already here. There's hand movement, truly hand movement, but it's not really demonstrable hand movement. It's very subtle hand movement. But the hand movement is saying, push you away. That's movement number one. Now we're going to movement number two. The transition is I got to get into position. Movement number two is you're pushing me or you're charging. I say, please come along. Okay, you gather your energy and you say, go away. This, the double-handed press, is the expression of, I guess, of the four, is overt power. You're forcing him away. Okay? And the other one is a thing called on. You're out, you open. Come with me, but I'm going to get you. See, power, it's an example of the Tai Chi yin and yang, okay? The yin is the female, the supposed withdrawal, or so yin, coiled up with all your power, yang, okay? So when you see them perform it, it's in a relatively smooth way. Of course, the way we're presenting it is a little bit rigid because we come here and we do this, okay? Somewhere along the line, as you get more familiar, it's forward, turn, bring it back down, go back up, bring it down, back up again. They're all sort of seemingly one movement, but that's the rationale.
So in sitting and kind of listening, just like you, we don't want you to get the feeling that you have to show the force. You don't have to show the mightiness and the martial art strength or force or energy that is needed in doing martial arts. So you conjure up what Ken is saying, where, yes, give me my space, but I'm going to drag you down. So in a lot of the demonstrations that Ken shows, kind of mixes with what we should actually do. So he showed you at the end that I'm all coiled up and then I'm going to push him out. But we don't show that. We show the softness of, yes, we're sinking it through. My opponent's there and I'm going to push him out. A little softer, okay? Way softer. But when he comes up, it's to show you where the movement has been derived. Get it? Yep, you understand. Yes? Grasping of the bird's tail. Okay, grasping of the bird's tail. And then we're in grasping this way. Okay, everybody this way. Left foot on a line, right foot on a 45. Push out. Sit back, sit down. Pivot. 12 o'clock. Stem and cup. We want to get out to the 9. Pivot out to the 9. Two things happen. Sorry. Single whip, sorry. Push out, sorry. Take it out to last grasping of the bird's tail. Sit back, sit down. Pivot, 12 o'clock. Go out to the 9 by using your hips and waist, almost like a cloud hand. You're at 12. You're going to hook the back hand. At the same time, you're coming to a T, right hand across the face, looking in the left position, turn the wrist out, set the foot down, push out, single whip. So a lot of the movements now, okay, you're gonna watch, push out, sit back, sit down, pivot, out to the 9. I'm using my hips and waist. My hands are just attached. Using my hips and waist again. I need to be fully on my back foot. I do this together. I come out on an L, and then I push out, single whip. Then I'm into cloud hands, okay? So let's take that one now, okay? Right foot on a line, left foot on a 45, push out, drop those shoulders, sit back, sit down on that imaginary stool, twist, step, cup, 9 o'clock, like a cloud hand. Move to the 12 by using your hips and waist. Slowly out to the 3, you need to balance on a T, hook. Left hand across the face, move the hips and waist out, turn the wrist out, single whip. Okay, I'm gonna go on and we can still come back to it. Sit back, sit down, pivot, 12 o'clock, 3 o'clock. Okay, you're this way, cloud hands. Move your hips and waist, hands hardly move, but they go because their hips and waist are moving. 9 o'clock, 2 things happen. Flip the hands, close the feet. 12 o'clock, stem cup, use your hips and waist. Get out to the 3 and 2 things happen. Flip the hands open. Move the hips and waist. Hands are attached. 2 things happen at 9. Flip and close. 12 o'clock, stem cup. 3 o'clock, 2 things happen. Flip and open. This is the third rotation. 9 o'clock, flip the hands, close. End of cloud hands. At 3 o'clock, we hook the hand. Left hand across the face, on a T, out L, turn the wrist, single whip, second single whip. Okay? Was it easy? Was it okay? Hey, let's see. So did you see that your hips and waist had a lot to do with cloud hands? Also single whip. The hands hardly moved, but they took the natural formation of whatever your stance was with your hips and waist. They flowed with your hips and waist. The more powerful, the more your hips and waist are in play, the better off you are. Second rotation, final rotation. Go out to the 3, I hook, I form a T with my foot. Left hand across the face, step out. Bottom matches the top. I wanted to actually do an experiment. So you know that cloud hands, we talked about how cloud hands form at the 9, at the 12, and the 3. But I kind of wanted to show you that if my hands were still not in the correct position, but in that 9 o'clock, if my hips and waists are moving, they will move with me. Right? So yeah, you say that's right. Hey, that is right. So can you see that if I go fast, my hands will go fast. If I go slow, my hands will go slow. But what's driving my hands? My hips and my waist. So you set it up correctly, and then you move. Okay, and I want to get to the extreme of 9 o'clock or 3 o'clock for you. I will make that slightly a little bit more. But you're in motion, so if you have that little wiggle room, like I said, but you can try it. Let's try it. Put your hands any old way. I don't want to look at you. Any old way, but you're in the 3 o'clock position, okay? And you say that the driver, this is to prove that my hips and waist drive my movements in Tai Chi. I'm going to put my hands any old place, and I'm going to open, and I'm going to use my hips and waist. But I'm going to drive my hand movements with my turning of my hips and waist. So you say, hey, that's really easy. Put your hands a little different and go a little faster. Are you moving your hands? Only because your hips and waist are taking you there. Okay, don't just move your hands. And you can try different things. So that's what Tai Chi is. Tai Chi is the hips and the waist. But what else? It's the mind. So mind is very active. So yes, in refining Tai Chi movements, you have that option to finish off the touch or that movement with the softness of your fingers and your hands. But not right away do you use only hands, but the finishing touches become a refinement. Okay? So that was what I wanted to get across to you. But like every lesson, it's not a lesson in itself. It's a lesson to be accumulated, to apply to everything. So we got as far as single whip. Okay, let's take it a little bit. Let's finish it off to Serpent in the Grass, where we ended the last time. We have a little more time. So we were at the last single whip. Left foot on a line, right foot on a 45, left hand matches to their foot, right hand at about 2 o'clock on a hook. So what's a hook? The 4 fingers are surrounding the thumb, and the wrist is dropped, okay? The wrist is dropped. Actually, I'm going to turn you this way, sorry. This way, okay? Half step forward, sit back. You don't just sit back like this, okay? So what's happening? My hands or my upper body are dictated by my sitting back. Whatever it takes to sit back, my upper body takes that formation. I lift off and I pat my horse. Do you see that? So you don't have to be dramatic to say that half step forward, sit back. You can do it in a nicer way and subtle. Half step forward, sit back. Okay, and when this comes over, it's not this kind of thing. Something's in the back, your core is telling you to move in this direction. Okay, let's try. Where are we? Single whip. Half step. Sit back, rock the front, lift off, pat the horse, go up his mane, make sure that left hand is to your hip, cross, step out, palms down to the left, circular energy, gathering it to the center, right foot coming up, right hand on the outside, kick out on an angle, right, in, L stance on a right heel, punch the guy's ears, curl it in. Sit back, sit down, pivot, turn the hips and waist, left hand on the outside, left foot ready to go, kick out, left, in and down. Okay, so in and down, that's what I'm going to leave you.